Reuters got a hold of a juicy email this week, and it's an internal Pentagon email. And this email lays out potential retaliation measures against NATO allies who did not sufficiently support Donald Trump's Iran war. The top two ideas on this list: one, suspend Spain from NATO. And two, I got this fresh off the wire. Man, that sounds fun. I need to say that more often. Renegotiate the United States position on the British Falkland Islands, which Argentina has claimed since the 19th century. Let me translate that from you from Hegseth's speech. The United States of America is considering giving British territory to Argentina because Britain will not bow to Donald Trump's demands. And hold on to this Argentina thing for a second. We'll get back to that in the end. But first, let's talk Spain. Spain's crime, for which Trump wants to boot them from NATO, is that they refused to let United States planes take off from Spanish airspace or Spanish bases to go bomb Iran in this illegal, pointless war. Spain rightfully said no. Trump then calls Spain terrible, threatened to cut off all U.S. trade with Spain. And now the Pentagon wants them out of the NATO military alliance entirely. All of this so that Donald Trump could start an illegal war to distract from the fact that he's the main character in the Epstein files, allegedly. Now, the reaction from Spain? They've got a real leader. Their Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, he put on a clinic on how to handle a Trumpian tantrum with grace. Sanchez was asked about this email at an EU summit in Cyprus, and his response: I am absolutely not worried. We do not work with emails. We work with official documents and positions taken by the government of the U.S. We do not work with emails. That one sentence is a masterclass. It deserves a prize on its own. That sentence is Pedro Sanchez telling the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America and the President, I sent your email straight to junk. I will not be replying. Regards. You are welcome for my inattention to this matter. And over to Britain. Trump's beef with Keir Starmer is that the UK initially refused to let US planes take off from British bases to go bomb Iran. Starmer later greenlit it for defensive purposes, which is the Geneva Convention loophole that everyone uses when they don't want to say yes. Trump's response has been to call Starmer no Winston Churchill and to mock British aircraft carriers as, quote, toys. And now the Pentagon is considering taking Britain's Falkland Islands and handing them to Argentina. Starmer's spokesperson, their response is also a thing of beauty. The quote, pressure does not affect him, and he will always act in the national interest. Translated, go take a long walk off a very short pier, you bloated orange pest. And now, Argentina. Back to Argentina. You may remember that Scott Bessent, his Treasury Department, staged a $40 billion bailout of the country to prop up their chainsaw-wielding libertarian friend, Javier Milei, whose economic program was collapsing. Elon loves him, by the way. $40 billion of your tax dollars out the door to Argentina. And now today, this week, the Pentagon is floating the idea of rewarding that same Argentina with British territory. They called the shot. We just sent them $40 billion and now we're considering giving them the Falklands. As what, a tip, a holiday bonus, a thank you for nothing gift basket? And this government in Argentina, which just took this bailout from the country that is threatening the country that owns the islands it wants, is sitting in Buenos Aires, opening the mail every morning like a kid on his birthday. What did America send us today? 40 billion bucks. Oh, there's some islands? What's tomorrow? A pony? A zoo? 3 of the Great Lakes? Who knows? And look, when you really break this down, the email itself tells you that this is all a performance. The email says, suspending Spain from NATO would carry strong symbolic weight with little operational consequence to the U.S. military. The Pentagon, in writing, admits that this isn't about strategy. It's about optics. The fact that this email is out in the press is their desired outcome. They're doing it for the headline. They're doing it so that Trump can go on Truth Social and yell at Spain and blame his Iranian losses on someone else. The official value, 0. But the diplomatic damage, catastrophic, just like everything else Trump touches. And meanwhile, Trump has a new favorite phrase that came out of this, paper tiger. He's called NATO a paper tiger. He's called the alliance cowards. Pentagon Press Secretary Kingsley Wilson, which is a name that sounds like a 1930s cruise ship lounge singer, doobie doobie doo, officially told Reuters this: despite everything the United States has done for our NATO allies, they were not there for us. Kingsley, respectfully, ma'am, sit the F down. Article 5 of the NATO treaty, which says an attack on one is an attack on all, has been invoked exactly one time in the entire 77-year history of NATO. You know when? September 12th, 2001, 24 hours after 9/11. It was invoked to defend the United States at one of our worst moments. British soldiers, they died in Afghanistan. Canadian soldiers died in Afghanistan. German soldiers, French, Polish, Danish, Dutch, Italian, Norwegian, and Turkish soldiers, they paid the ultimate price in Afghanistan for us, for Americans, for 20 straight years. There are moms in Warsaw and Berlin and Alberta that buried their kids because the United States got hit and we needed help. And they answered the call. And Pete Hegseth, a man who spent those 20 years serving our country from a couch on cable news TV studios, is now on the record saying that our allies weren't there for us. My brother and Doug Wilson, because that's who you think is Christ, they literally died for us. Look it up. Hell, there's monuments. There's a monument in Brussels with their name on it. Go read it. Fly there. Hell, they've got free drinks in first class. May entice you. But just go. Go read the names. And then come back here and say that quote. And here's the other thing that the war crowd at the Pentagon doesn't want you to think about. The Strait of Hormuz, which carries roughly 20% of the world's oil, the reason you can't afford anything, has been largely shut for 2 months. 2 months because of Trump's Iranian war. Again, to distract from Epstein. And every time you fill up at the pump, it costs you $40 more than it did last spring. That's the damage. And the White House's response, instead of fixing crap, is to scream at Spain for not helping. Oh, and by the way, Trump can't actually suspend Spain from NATO. He just can't. The NATO treaty does not have a mechanism for suspension. It would essentially require the consent of every other member. And every other member likes Spain more than they do us, because Spain had the spine to tell Trump no first. So the Trump math, as always, does not math. His threat, as most of them are hollow. The emperor has no clothes, no pants. Ew. I don't ever want to think that or say that again. Ugh. Someone fire a writer. Wait. I'm the writer? Jesus, I must really be messed up. Anyway, the still wearing pants emperor is yelling about the Falklands. And Europe, they're laughing at us. And the honest truth here, they should be. Because we as a country, we did it to ourselves. And if you're just as fed up as I am, leave me a comment. Hit the like button. That is the only way we overcome the algorithm and get stories like this in front of you.